Yesterday on the channel, I covered Scott Snyder and some weird political tweets he was making that I found like, this is a weird virtue signal right ahead of the DC All-In launch. These people tend to go very political when there's problems happening with them. And that it's like they want to get the signal out there. I'm on the team. Don't cancel me, bro, when they have something big coming out. Because the comic industry is really toxic. It's one big whisper network political environment. And somebody like Scott Snyder, unfortunately, it's sad because I think I'd get along with the guy pretty well if we did an interview or something like that. He would get absolutely torched, destroyed, and canceled just for talking to me about comic books. And that's kind of how it works, right? And so the dude, of course, will never respond to me, never come on for an interview. We have some great interviews coming up. We have Mark Miller's Not Afraid of These People, so stay tuned for that as it comes along. And there is a lesson, don't be afraid of this stuff. If you just do what you do and don't be afraid of this stuff, cancel culture doesn't work. But when you try to live by the Whisper Network and die by the Whisper Network, you end up in problems. And Scott Snyder's career is in one of those crossroads right now where I think he really needs to make a choice: is if he's going to go fully independent and stand on his own, or if he's going to try to ride this for a while. Now, I talked to somebody with inside information at DC Comics, who I can't talk about again. I've got too many people who give me sources who I just cannot mention because they'll get canceled. They will literally get their lives ruined, removed from comics just for talking to me. These people are absolutely unhinged. And the people I'm talking about are the Alex DeCampis out there, the Heather Antoses, the Mags Visagios. They're all in these little Slack chats and Discords and things like that together. Rich Johnston, Heidi McDonald. They're all working together in order to try to build their own clout and to tear down anybody else who is not a part of their clout structure. They've been after Scott Snyder for some time. They've wanted him canceled for some time. A few years back, you remember Heather Antos was going at him saying, "Hey, disavow Comicsgate. Why aren't you disavowing Comicsgate?" Because a lot of people just in Comicsgate liked Scott Snyder's books just because they're good. I mean, they're solid. Not always my favorite stuff, but the guy's got a talent level which is beyond a lot of others out there. That's undeniable. And so, he was on vacation, was not paying attention to Twitter or whatever, and he there was a furor of his just refusal to cancel Comicsgate. Eventually, he did disavow because he backed down. But it's really sad because if you just don't back down to the mob, you win, really, at the end of the day. If you just persevere, you don't have any problems. But these people are still scared of this Whisper Network, and it's really sad. Now, this is happening with DC All-In, and they're really behind in the back channels, from what I understand. They really want to claim a scalp in the Whisper Network because they've taken such big L's this year. They have really lost a lot of power within their clout structure due to the Ed Piskor situation earlier this year. And so they've kind of gone underground quiet because of that. And at the same time, none of their books are selling. None of them are really on big books anymore. They've all failed at their careers at these companies for the most part. And they're still there. I mean, Heather's still obviously kind of running around with their chicken with her head cut off at IDW as the company's on fire. But it's not like they're gone, but they definitely want to assert their power again. And Scott Snyder is a great target for them. So he's in charge of this DC All-In initiative of the Absolute DC line. DC really doesn't have any superstar writers who are out there who can spearhead an initiative and try to pull the company up from anything anymore. Scott Snyder's about as much as it gets. And even though he's, like I said, he's a talented guy, he's not a superstar. What we've seen is he's attempted to do a bunch of projects outside DC in recent years, Nocterra, some of his other stuff. And by the way, they're all pretty good. I mean, I've read them and enjoyed some of them. I'll have a review up later of his White Boat from Distillery. But those haven't moved the needle. They haven't become big like Jonathan Hickman or Rick Remender level bestsellers with Image Comics or anything like that. It didn't go kind of how he thought it would go. And I don't know why, to be honest. I like his work better than both of those guys, but he just does not have that superstar fan base, and it just is what it is. He's kind of a B+ fan base level. So DC he came back to because his Batman always gets talked about. Oh, Scott Snyder Batman, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman. It's now, that's kind of the good old days now, because Batman's been in the toilet for the last 5 years or so since he hasn't been writing it. And so he got in charge of Absolute Batman. DC knows that's a popular run. They hope that this Absolute thing will pick up just like the Ultimate Universe, but unfortunately it is not. And pre-orders are now closed for the month for October. And so we have kind of the final numbers in for the most part. And things didn't go so well for DC Comics is what's coming on right now. So I have forgotten to shill. Oh my gosh. Is this my channel? Gosh, who are you watching here? I'm John Delarose, everybody. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I've been independent in comics for a long, long time, making great works. And it's really starting to take off because word of mouth is spreading that we really deliver all of our promises, from a great story to great art, to the fact that this book's done. And so we're just going to start shipping these out just a couple of weeks after the campaign closes, which is how you should do things to keep everybody invested in your universe. Now, this Ayla Rin universe, this is our second book in the series, and we are already surpassing book one in our sales. We're bucking the trends of the comic book industry and winning because readers understand this is where it's at. So I'd love for you to come in on this. This is a great book. You'll love it if you love Star Wars, Warhammer 40K, Valerian and Laureline, 2000 AD. We're really into classic stuff, and we're making a classic storyline with this. And I appreciate you for being there. So grab that in the description below. You can read this standalone. It's excellent. Or if you want to get in on the whole series, you can get the complete Ayla Rin Adventures pack. There's a leather-bound version, too, where this is our first time doing that. Thank you guys so much for being there. All right. So DC Comics is in this spot where they have the all-in situation. And all-in is all-in. This is the last gasp. They are out of ideas. If this does not work, they don't know what's going on. Now, I've read this stuff about the storylines, and it's like, Darkseid should be the best villain in DC Well, okay. What else? Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, but they're differenter. Okay. What else? And there's really not a lot of hype behind it because there's really not much to it. It's just the same shuffling of the deck. Like, Tom Taylor's moved from gay Superman, and now he's going to be on Detective Comics. So does that mean Batman's going to turn gay? Maybe with Robin. I mean, it's been the joke for forever. Tom Taylor would be the one to do it. We got Jason Aaron, who's writing a Batman title right now. Wrote all the superhero titles for a while, doing Absolute Superman. Again, rumored that he's going to be pansexual. Scott Snyder's back on Batman, but this Batman is like Rob Liefeldized Batman. Like it reminds me of like Heroes Reborn in the 90s, and that's not a good thing with the design. Absolutely crazy. And then they put Kelly Thompson on Absolute Wonder Woman. Kelly Thompson's like this Whisper Network person who's getting awards and being put on everything as like, she's like the new Kelly Sue DeConnick, she's there for the like feminism clout so that they can say they put a woman on a book. And her stuff's really just subpar. It really is. And so this is where we're at with the relaunch. Like, I mean, what's the point? And what's going on? They're shuffling the deck, moving all the same people to different titles. And it's like, well, if you're just trying the same thing with the same people over and over and over again, what's the point? Retailers have kind of rejected this as a result. And it's got Scott Snyder really nervous. That's why he was making that political posting yesterday, I found out, because behind the scenes, that Whisper Network, as I was talking about earlier, wants him gone. And so he's making sure ahead of the election and ahead of this being out, even with the sales, which are not going to go how they plan, that he is a little bit protected, and that's the whole point of that sort of situation. So I found that out and got that confirmed, that's why he's political posting, because he's usually never political posts. Then I found out the big bombshell, that with the pre-orders here, DC's sitting at 50% of what they anticipated for the sales for the relaunch here. That is a huge drop-off. Now, an industry crippling drop-off, something that like all hands on deck, big disaster, is a 20% drop, usually. So when you look at that kind of thing and you see 50% drop, people are just out on DC Comics. And I've seen comments on posts where I've made about this stuff before. Readers have just been burned too many times. DC does these events. It doesn't actually impact anything. DC keeps recycling the same talent. It doesn't impact anything. They keep resetting things. They keep doing a new initiative, Rebirth, and then Dawn of DC, Future State. Future State was supposed to build new replacement characters because DC's about to have a bunch of these characters go public domain, so they need like new iterations of them to keep copyrights. That bombed really hard. Retailers even rioted against that one. They were going to replace Batman with Lucius Fox and turn him into Black Batman for the DEI agenda. They did it in the Future State book, but they didn't actually move it on to any of the titles. So all these events that were supposed to change the DC universe forever ended up changing nothing. And DC just kind of cycled itself. There's no sense of continuity. There's no sense of like actually a coherent world anymore. They really botched everything since the New 52. And it's really, really sad to watch. So the sad part is like, I mean, Scott Snyder himself probably isn't going to do anything wrong. I'm sure his Batman's going to be fine. And it's going to be a 7 out of 10, right? But with that, like the universe just doesn't have anything to latch onto. The readers have been burned too many times. Nobody's interested in this. DC Comics is just dead on arrival. DC stands for don't care at this juncture, and that's a major problem for them and actually a major problem for comic retailers across the board. So with this 50% less sales than they anticipated, it's a failure out the gate. And comics don't pick up after the first issues. It's all speculators at that point. That's the spot where people come in. The speculators really drive the hype. They brag about sales based on the speculators, and then the next few issues like really settle down into their real numbers. So we're going to see a drop from this 50%, which is the sad part about all this. I fear this is really the end of DC Comics because they're telling us they're all in. Scott Snyder's made posts, worried that they're not going to be employed in the next couple of years. He's really panicked. My people from DC insiders say that he's like absolutely terrified of this launch because he knows there's just not enough there to draw readers back in, and he has no ideas for what to do. It's really, really sad. But until they inject some new talent and new life, I really don't see this going anywhere as a company, except for down. They need to really do things from scratch. They need to cut their title lines in half and really focus on quality and just stick with it for a while. That's the main thing with DC Comics. They don't stick with anything, ever. Even graphic novels, like their lines don't finish. And it's been a big train wreck for the company over the last 10 years. And I see this one as just the final death knell. All right, there's the information. 50% drop, guys. Terrible. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.